This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, live in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream in the comfort and convenience of your home and or office. However you choose to attend, live or via live stream, know that we will be providing more than 50 hours of very intense content over 4 days, more than you can possibly absorb. What that means is that tapes, recordings of the conference will be available to you, and you'll need to use those to get your money's worth. It also means that we're interviewing every exhibitor and every speaker before the conference so that you have the ability to allocate your time at the conference and, frankly, before the conference more efficiently. Another thing that you need to know about the exhibitors in the conference: at every other investment conference that I know of in the world, the qualification to be an exhibitor is simply a check that cashes. They're advertisers. At my conference, the exhibitors have to be owned in my account. Well, that does constitute a conflict of interest, of course. It guarantees that at our conference, unlike any other conference on the planet, every exhibitor has been vetted. And that allows me to do something extravagant for you, the attendee. To the extent that you don't think that I've earned the money that we charge you to attend the conference, there's a solid gold guarantee. If for any reason you're unsatisfied with the value that we offer, a full money back guarantee. No other conference on the planet makes that guarantee. So let's get started with the interview. Today, I'm delighted to interview a fairly new friend of mine, Mr. Javier Reyes, co-founder of Luca Mining. Javier, first of all, thank you for your efforts on behalf of mining investors and Mexican mining investors, but thank you particularly for your sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me. And as I shared with my kids, as I was driving them on Saturday to Whistler after I landed from Mexico at 5 a.m., I said, I'm going to be interviewed by Rick, which has been one of my heroes. And after 26 years of doing mining, I think it's the first time that I had the opportunity to be interviewed by somebody that I admire like you. So thank you for having me, Rick.
Well, we'll see if those good spirits extend to the end of the interview, Javier. Tell us something about your background. What did you do before you founded Luca? And why should we care about how you answer the questions that come? Establish some credibility for me.
So I started my finance career, Rick, when I was 14 years old. I had to work hard in my early childhood, and I started in a broker dealer. Of course, I started at the very bottom of the chain, and then I made my way up. When I turned 20, I launched my hedge fund, which is kind of arrogant to say because even though I launched a hedge fund, it was basically empty with no investors for a very long time until I started, getting credibility and people trusting in myself and the ability to invest in natural resources. So I would say now I'm 46. So for the last 26 years, I've been investing in natural resources. And in a humble way, I would say that my best asset I have, it's been my mistakes. As you know, this sector is full of undelivered promises, and I've been, except for the last now 13, 14 years, I've managed my own, or I helped manage my own investments, my own mining companies. But in the very beginning of my career, I was mostly on the buy side. And of course, I made a lot of bad decisions, investment decisions. And I would say that that's the most important asset I have personally as a business person. And that's how we were able to turn Loca, the investment that the company where you invested into a good company.
Javier, there will be at least online attendees to the conference from more than 30 countries. But I think it's important to note that at Luca, first of all, you're a Mexican national and a Mexican citizen, and your company is focused in Mexico. Can you tell us something about that investment decision other than the fact that Mexico is geographically convenient for you?
Yeah, I would say that I learned along the way as I was sharing with you my story. I used to invest in other countries until I realized that I didn't have any edge in other countries, right? As I reflect on the mistakes that I'd made in the past is basically investing in people that pretend to know about mining, that pretend to know the country, and that for the most part they only use the companies as a lifestyle, no? And that's why we deserve this bad reputation as a sector. So as I reflect on my bad investment decisions, then I just said, how can I do it differently? So the second most valuable asset we have is our people. No, we have extraordinary people across the country, and we decided to focus on not only in Mexico but in jurisdictions inside our own country where we have a lot of insight and talent. So 99% of the employees in Luca are Mexicans, and I would say that culture that we have built over the last over 10 years has made Luca and all the investment decisions that we made unique, because we know how to manage difficult circumstances that happen in every country. But now that we're talking about Mexico, I think we know how to do it better. As again, most of the CEOs that operate in North America, maybe they go once a year, or they don't barely go to the operations. I try to be in Mexico once a month. Again, I just came at 5 in the morning on Saturday. So I think that's what made the difference, that this is a Mexican company with North American standards, and that's what's unique, no? That also we are fully invested, and maybe over 50% of the shareholders of Luca are friends and family, and for the most part Mexicans.
You have two principal assets in Mexico, uh, either starting up production or producing. Can you tell us something about these two operations, and also tell us something about how you were able to acquire these assets at prices that appear, to me at least, to be very attractive?
So we have two producing assets, and the investment thesis, Rick, has been taking the stress opportunities and unlock value. No, that has been the investment thesis, which means that we are taking over assets that have big resources, that are fully permitted, and that have most of the capex behind. Because I learned along my career that by the time you explore, permit, and invest, the capex required to bring assets into production, for the most part, investors lose most of the money. So the crisis that the mining sector went through, and Mexico being for fire sale because extreme left government that we used to have, which now has really changed for good, uh, then we realized that we were in a unique situation to take these opportunities and unlock value. In the case of the two assets you're asking me about for Lucas, which are Campo Morado and Tahuehueto, the biggest opportunity happened that even though now I'm wearing a suit, when the time came to fix the problems, which were mostly on the social side, I could put my jeans on and my jeans and my t-shirt and do it by myself. No, as I said, I started when I was 14. I don't come from a prominent family. So I work my way out, and I have the ability to communicate with people because I know how it feels to be poor, right? So when you have been there, you know that the issue is always being able to communicate, understand the culture and the needs, and then make things happen. In the case for these assets of Luca, we had over $500 million of infrastructure in place, so most of the capex was behind. We had long mine lives, average 10 years of mine life between the two assets. So the only thing that was needed, of course, was some extra capital to bring them back into production and have the right people in place. But this is very important, not the best people, the right people in place, the right Mexicans in place to be able to manage the operations. So now 2025 is going to be a year where we should do between 80 and 100,000 ounces of gold equivalent between the two assets. We should have $30 to $40 million of cash flow between the two assets. And now the future is exploration. But again, the opportunity started having the right people in place to make the operation happen. And going forward, having the right people in place should prevent the issues that this asset had in the past, particularly Campo Morado. It should prevent having the right people not having the same issues that Nistar had in their days.
Let's deal with two things that make gringos concerned about Mexico. The first would be Mexican federal politics and the new jefe, or jefa in this case. She is perceived as being anti-mining. So if you could deal with Mexican federal politics, and then, of course, the 800-pound gorilla, the narcotraficantes.
So in the case of probably the most important one, which is the federal government, uh, we now have as the head of the federal mining delegation, probably what I believe is one of the most pro-mining, truly pro-mining mining leaders on behalf of the federal government that we have had, not only since AMLO, which was very against mining, but even before when the PRI was running the country, we never had such a good team because it's not only Fernando Aboitis, but his team is a team that is committed to bring back mining, responsible mining, which we have always been doing responsible mining. And I had the opportunity to spend the full week with him while PDAC and make sure that we together and himself on behalf of the federal government could convince investors that Mexico is open for mining again. And I'm comfortable to say, Rick, that very prominent projects like new Agnico Tech San Nicolas mine, which is a big open pit project, is going to get permitted this year. So even though ourselves, we don't require any permits, big companies like Agnico, Discovery, and many others will get the permit this year. And as we speak, there's hundreds of permits that have been given which didn't happen during the AMLO days. So I would say I'm extremely comfortable and super happy to have these leaders running the country now. We have very close relationships. I was in Mexico for 2 hours with them on a Thursday, and people very close to your friend Eric's brought were with me for the meeting. And what you would learn from them is that they are very open and they understand that mining provides a very important role in our country because we take care of the people that nobody else cares about. And I think they are really trying hard, and they do have the back of the Mexican president, of the new Mexican president, because they wouldn't be sharing those messages around the world if they didn't have the president on their side.
Given that your current operations are in the Occidental, traditional narcotraficante country, can you tell me something about social relationships and in particular in rural areas, how you deal with the cartels?
Yeah, I would say, Rick, that's a very sad thing that the country is going through, and it has really changed, especially during the last 6 years. Now this new government is trying to fight them uh, because they were not fought. They had this theory of hogs instead of bullets. Instead of sending the army, they were just trying to use the abrazos no balazos policy in Spanish. And I would say that it's very hard to explain. So for me, the most difficult question was the federal government, which you just asked. And now again, they don't have to believe me, but it's on record, and the statement will be these lots of permits that have been granted from Torex, Agnico, etc. But then going back to the narcotraficante question, these organizations, these organized crime organizations, they act like unions, right? But they also care about the people, right? The unions are basically conformed by people. So the easiest way for us to deal with them is having an amazing culture. And as I said, I come from a poor background, so the message that comes out of the people that work with us, it's such that they go and bother other people or other companies. And it's key in our organization that the most important cell in our companies, the same thing as in our families, is woman, right? Women, for the most part, they don't run those organizations. Women, for the most part, they don't go on strike. Women, for the most part, they are more honest and they value their work. They don't want to migrate to other places. So a very simple decision, which is having women as the most important cell for our operations, and having all our employees with a shirt on, believing in what we are doing, is what keeps the organization, this organized crime, away. Also, of course, I would say that ourselves understanding how the country works, we have military bases in some of our assets, which dissuade these people from bothering us and maybe bothering other people, no? So, but again, keeping your people happy has been the key of not letting, because usually when things happen is from the inside. The inside filters information to the outside, and then you are exposed to these criminal organizations. But I would say that that's our value, right? Our value is that we know how to deal with them in a I would say in a legal way, in a way that we can go to sleep, that I can look at my kids at night and know that I did the right thing for the people. And since we took control of the assets, which were taken by them, in the old days by Nistar, since we have taken control of the operations, we have never had an issues with them. And I would say that for the most part, if anything, they they help keep the regions in peace, especially where we operate. So I guess this ability for us to deal with the people, and the people, of course, sometimes are them, makes us very unique. No, going back to having a lot of women, incredible, beautiful women working for us. For the most part, maybe their husbands, their relatives could be part of them, but just sending the right message that we really take care of our people prevents these organizations to bother us. So we have not had an issue, and hopefully we won't have any issues.
Javier, in closing, thank you for your efforts on behalf of mining investors in Mexico, but thank you in particular for your support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. To the extent that our attendees are interested in mining in Mexico, and Luca, who specifically do they contact, and how specifically do they contact this person?
So I'm always available, Rick. As you know, Luca is super special for me because it has the name of my two daughters, Luciana and Camila. That's why it's named Luca. And I'm always available. For me, it's my life. As I said, as a group, we control over 50% of the shares. So I will share with you my email. Should I say it now? Should I say my email
Right
now?
now.
So
Right now.
it's J as Javier, Reyes at lucamining.com. And I will be always available.
Javier, that was the right answer. The buck stops at the top. I look forward, Javier, to hosting you at the Boca Raton Investment Symposium. Thank you for the time today.
No, thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me.